So you might ask yourself, in a course about financial planning, why are we talking about money and happiness? Well, let's try to understand why. Who of us has not at some point asked ourselves one of these two questions? If only I had that car, house, jacket, holiday, I would be happy. Or, one day when I have enough money, I'll be happy. Only to realize, when we finally reach that goal, that once the initial euphoria of reaching the goal has passed, we think to ourselves, wow, I really just feel the same. I'm not substantially happier. So when we talk about financial planning, which deals with our relationship with money and our hopes, dreams, goals for financial well-being, we must understand whether money itself is actually going to be able to provide us with a fulfillment of those goals, or whether those goals might in fact be something other than that. Who of you has ever heard of this concept, the hedonic treadmill? It summarizes exactly what we've been talking about, this constant chasing after more things in the belief that it's going to just make us a lot happier. Let's look at an example. I think to myself, I'd be really happy if I had those fantastic pair of shoes. I go and I buy the shoes, and then I think to myself, I really also need that handbag to be happy. And then I think, no, wait, I also need that watch. After I bought the watch, I think I would really like to have that car. Can you see that we just can continuously repeat the cycle? A constant chasing after things that might actually become really destructive after time. So, in order to gauge whether there is in fact a link between money and happiness, a number of pieces of research has been produced over the past sort of 10 to 15 years. And the outcomes actually provide us some really, really interesting insights. And we want to look at two of these pieces of research very briefly. The first paper, written by Angus Deacon and Daniel Kahneman, was based on research conducted amongst 450,000 respondents globally. Before we look at the outcomes, it's really important to understand two very specific concepts that are important to our evaluation of the research outcomes. Firstly, there's the concept of life evaluation. Now, this speaks to a deeper look at a person's life from a broader, more long-term perspective. Long-term life satisfaction is what is important when looking at life evaluation. And then secondly, there's the concept of emotional well-being, which refers more to our everyday experiences, such as joy, sadness, frustration, anxiety, and so on. Our general feeling of well-being on a daily basis. So what insights did they gain into money versus happiness? Firstly, life evaluation increases with increased income. So interestingly, this is true regardless of what one's actual income is. So for example, if I only earn $10,000 a year and I get an increase of $1,000, that increase would be as meaningful to me as an increase of $30,000 would be for you if you in fact earned $300,000 a year. So, on the face of it, it looks like, well, maybe money does make us happier. But another interesting outcome was that emotional well-being only increases up to a satiation point or threshold, after which that additional income doesn't really increase one's daily well-being at all. Remember what we said about emotional well-being. It is our everyday feelings of happiness, sadness, anxiety, and so on. And that threshold, they determined, was the equivalent in 2010 of $75,000 of income a year. So let's look at an example here. Let's say I earned $100,000 and my neighbor earned $150,000. We would both likely be happier on a daily basis than our friend who earns $40,000 per year. Right. But my neighbor and I will probably not be much happier than each other. Why? Because our annual incomes already exceeds that threshold or satiation point. But of course, our friend who only earns $40,000, which is way below that point, hasn't reached it yet. So really interesting from the impact on our life evaluation versus our emotional well-being. More recently in 2018, similar research was done by Purdue University. It was refined even more with some more detail, more countries added to the research, and so on. The research outcomes seems to show a similar trend than that of the first study, with specific points beyond which additional income no longer increases one's broader life evaluation or one's emotional well-being. With the more recent research then establishing the thresholds at $95,000 in terms of life evaluation, and between $60,000 and $75,000 as a threshold for emotional well-being. So remember, the principle being that income beyond those points would not increase either the life evaluation or the emotional well-being substantially. Interesting fact that threshold or satiation point was found to occur later in wealthier countries for that component of life satisfaction. So why would we think that would actually be? If we think about the life satisfaction component being an assessment of our broader life satisfaction, is it not much to do with the concept of keeping up with the Joneses? If I live in a wealthier country, my frame of reference would look very different than my frame of reference would look if I lived in a lower income type of country or environment, because I am comparing my life satisfaction with a different group of people around me. Really important to remember, though, when we look at this research is it is not a specific science, and there are many things that actually impact this research. An interesting one was actually found to be that the day of the week that you would provide your answers could impact the answer you gave. Because let's think about this. If someone asks me about my emotional well-being on a Saturday afternoon, my answer might be substantially different to them asking me the same question on a Monday morning, first thing. But why is it important? It makes us consider this aspect very carefully in our own lives. Do we want more money in order to accumulate more things? Or do we want money to help us live in a way that provides personal fulfillment? There is a fantastic contributor to the education of both clients and financial planners in our environment, and it's a gentleman called Carl Richards. Please do yourself a favor and visit his website at www.behaviorgap.com. You really won't be sorry. He has this amazing gift of expressing sometimes complex financial concepts with a single simple hand-drawn image. So this example is really relevant to the discussion we've been having now. So can you see how he's almost summarized everything we've discussed in the blink of an eye? If we interpret this graph, we can see that if we use our money in ways that are consistent with our values, it is very likely that our happiness will in fact increase. Because financial planning is so relevant to every single one of us, and as we've said, we've each got such a unique set of circumstances to our own lives, we want to take some moments during the lessons and over the course of the modules in the course just to pause and reflect practically about what we've learned. You're welcome to pause the session if you need to in order to do these reflections. So at this point, I want you to think carefully about your own current situation. Will more money make you happier at this point in your life? If not, why not? And if so, why?